Among the concessions King Wladislav made at the Diet of 1492 was the promise to return property taken by King Matthias to its previous owners. One of those disputed properties was the royal fortress of Segni, which was, until 1469, owned by the Frankopan family. Naturally, the family wanted it back. The problem was that the fortress was an essential part of the defensive system, and the men in charge of that section of the defense, Ban Emeric Derencin of Dalmatia, Croatia and Slavonia, and Duke John Corvinus of Slavonia, refused to hand over the fortress. The conflict escalated in 1493. The Frankopan family were preparing to seize the fortress by force, Ban Derencin was preparing to defend it, and John Corvinus is alleged to have resigned his position over the whole matter. He wanted to maintain his good relationship with the Frankopan family and would go on to marry Beatrice Frankopan in 1496. It's very questionable whether Corvinus really resigned because of this. We know he is no longer Duke of Slavonia in 1494. Another story goes that the dukedom was taken away because the king and council still considered Corvinus to be a threat, as he was proving himself to be a good leader and commander in the position. But I digress. The developing crisis around Segni was put to a stop in mid-1493 by a significant Ottoman incursion passing through Croatia and into Carinthia and Carniola. Ban Derencin assembled an army of the Croatian nobility in order to intercept the Ottomans on their way back, when they were tired and carrying loot. The Frankopan family put their pretensions on Segni aside and joined the army. The Croatian army intercepted the Ottoman force on Krbava field on the 9th of September 1493. Ban Derencin decided to fight on an open field, expecting to face exhausted and lightly armed raiders. It turned out to be a more dangerous force. What followed was described as a massacre of the flower of the Croatian nobility, where many scions of the oldest Croatian noble houses either died or were captured. Ban Derencin himself was imprisoned by the Ottomans. It's said that after the battle he was served lunch, with his son's severed head on the side. The victors also sliced off the noses of the dead. The Sultan was paying a gold coin per nose. The account of the catastrophic defeat on Krbava field was written according to the survivors, one of whom was Bernardin Frankopan. The blame for the loss was placed on Ban Derencin, who died in Ottoman captivity. He is accused of stubbornly ignoring the advice of Ivan Frankopan of Cetin and others who died in the battle, that they should ambush the Ottoman raiders in the mountain passes, as was the usual practice. The accounts of the battle appear to exaggerate the material losses. After the battle, the military strength of the Croatian nobility appears to have been more dented than destroyed, but still the psychological effect of the battle should not be denied. The defeat and the intensifying raids across the entire border caused the estates of the whole realm to cry out for aid. Firstly, from their king. But the king had no aid to give. The treasury was nearly empty, the funds that the crown did have were spread thin. To add to that, the king no longer had a strong centralized military force of his own. The Diet, held earlier in 1493, had disbanded what hadn't mutinied of the Black Army, meaning that the defense of the realm was now reliant on the military capability and coordination of the decentralized traditional system of noble banners, and on King Matthias's system of fortresses that was under constant pressure from the raids. The nobility, especially the nobility near or on the border, now had to organize and finance the defense of the realm themselves. All the while, Ottoman raids destroyed their economic base by causing their peasantry to run away. On the one hand, while this was a problem for the large magnate landholders, they could still offer lower taxes and better working conditions and even move their peasants to safer estates further away from the border, and they could acquire more of those safe estates to finance the defense of the endangered ones. like the Croatian magnates were doing by acquiring estates in Slavonia and Hungary. On the other hand, the minor nobility found itself in an existential crisis. They could not afford to offer lower taxes or demand less labor, especially not if they lived on the border. They feared economic ruin if their peasants moved away as soon as they had a chance, leaving for the cities or, far more commonly, going to other estates, making other nobles richer and more powerful. To fan the flames of fear and division, the Sultan sent secret messages to each individual noble along the border, offering a deal. In return for tribute to the Sultan, their lands would be spared from the raids. Since almost everyone got one of these messages, anyone whose land did not get raided was suspected of colluding with the Sultan. All this meant that the nobility began to distrust each other and focused on defending their own lands rather than on a joint defense. With little to no help coming internally, the estates began to openly beg for aid from the outside, an act that would have been considered treasonous under King Matthias, but King Wladislav saw as a necessity. Soon after the defeat at Krbava field, the Croatian diet sent appeals for immediate aid to Maximilian von Habsburg and Pope Alexander VI, informing them of the Sultan's messages and warning them that if aid was not provided immediately, people would be considering the Sultan's offers. Very soon, Pope Alexander VI provided money and supplies, while Maximilian sent soldiers. Some among the Croatian nobility turned to help from Venice, which hired them as condottieri, paying them to protect Venetian holdings on the Adriatic coast. However, this external support created a dependency on the external benefactors and spread their influence inside the realm. The situation on the border improved somewhat in 1494 and 1495. Paul Kinigi defeated a large Ottoman incursion in the east, while John Corvinus was returned to a position of prominence as the new Ban of Dalmatia, Croatia, and Slavonia. He had some trouble with the estates of Slavonia, who were unwilling to provide reinforcements for Croatia, being far more concerned with their own defense at the time, but the new Ban managed to get them to cooperate. But suddenly, in 1495, Sultan Bayezid II offered peace to King Wladislav. Why? I don't hear you ask. Because in late 1494, King Charles VIII of France invaded Italy to claim the throne of Naples, proclaiming that he would lead a crusade against the Ottomans from there. To the surprise of many, his advance through Italy was unhindered. His army was still very strong when he entered Naples almost unopposed in the new year. In early 1495, the Sultan had good reason to fear a possible French invasion, so to free up his forces he offered peace to King Wladislav, which was accepted. Even though peace was declared and the large incursions ceased, the little war on the border, the raids, did not stop, and the realm was in dire need of military and economic reform. Lastly, I have two asides. On the 19th of August, 1493, Emperor Frederick III von Habsburg died, leaving his son Maximilian a united Austria, having technically bought Tyrol from his cousin Sigismund in 1490. And, on the 6th of November, 1494, a new swinging supposed sultanic successor was born to Sultan Bayezid's son Selim, who was named Suleiman.